Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This retreat we are going to study the Panchadashi. Panchadashi is a classic work on Advait Vedant which is at least 700 years old. And it is a Prakarana Grantha, which means it is a supportive or auxiliary scripture supporting the Vedanta philosophy. And here it's the highest, Advait Vedant. And you should, I think you are well acquainted with what we mean by Vedant. Vedant is the philosophy of the Upanishads. Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam Tad Upakarini Shariraka Sutradini. As given out by the Shariraka Sutras, the Brahma Sutras, as given out by the Upanishadic texts, that particular philosophy or knowledge portion of the Vedas is called Vedanta. Now it has a number of supportive scriptures written by great masters which are called Prakarana Granthas. They actually in a very pithy form confine themselves to the essentials of the philosophy and they will express it beautifully. They are small works, treatises you can say. That is a Prakarana Grantha. It has 4 elements or Anubandhas, which means it will first discuss the Adhikari, who is fit to receive this knowledge. Then it will discuss the actual subject matter, Prayojan, what is the subject matter of that particular text. Then it will discuss the Sambandh, which means the connection between the treatise and the subject matter. And finally the eulogy, a kind of Falastuti, what it will get you, the study of this. So I am not going to go deep into that because elsewhere we have discussed this extensively. Only we must make sure we are fit adhikaris for Vedant. Otherwise, it will just be like intellectual gymnastics. You won't get real life transforming truth from it. It only, works. Vedant only works if we are really, really qualified. Until then, there are a number of supportive practices which we can keep doing, which we are doing. But this level of Vedant, which Panchadashi is talking of, it is the direct truth. Because the author of Panchadashi is really magnificent. It is Vidyaranya Swami. He was the pontiff or the head of the Sringeri Mutt, Shankaracharya's order, you know it, the Sringeri Mutt, from 1377 to 1386. So it's an ancient text, encapsulates deep wisdom of Advait Vedant and written by a monastic who is completely immersed in this. So that is why the ideas of Panchadashi are so powerful. In fact, when I was reading it, it was really stunning. See, today we'll go into it, you will see it. The very meaning of Panchadashi means actually 15 chapters. That's all. Panchadasha Prakarana iti Panchadashi. 15 chapters of concentrated wisdom of Advait Vedant. And in very lucid, beautiful language, he does not go into, answering queries of opponents. He does not go into too much of logical gymnastics. He actually only goes into insights into truth. And in very simple language, you will all understand the language. So Panchadashi is really powerful. You can take it as a primary text before you begin the actual study of Advait Vedant. You can go into Panchadashi. This author is famous for very many such texts on Advait Vedant. Drigdrishya Vivek, Jivan Mukti Vivek, and the traditional life of Shankaracharya. All of them are by Vidyaranya Swami. So very profound texts on Advait Vedant he has given us. Obviously he is a man of realization, steeped in this knowledge. That is why it is coming out in such simple form. In this text you will see that. And let me point out to a few more things regarding this Panchadashi before we begin the text. See, it has, as you know, 15 chapters which are, divided into three, what is called quintads, which means three portions which have one common subject. So the first portion is called Vivek Panchaka, the second is Deepa Panchaka, and the third is Ananda Panchaka. Together they make 15 chapters. 5, 5, 5. So Vivek Panchaka is actually dealing with the, you can say, Sat aspect of Brahman, existence itself, what it means. Deepa Panchaka is to do with consciousness. Everything is to do with consciousness only, but in a way you can say this. And then Ananda Panchaka is to do with the bliss aspect of pure consciousness. So it's all like bhakti. It's so beautiful. That's how he has divided it. And actually speaking, this author subscribes to the Vivarna tradition of Advait Vedanta. You know, there are two primary schools of Advait Vedanta which have slight variations. They differ from each other. The first is called the Vivarna school. The second is called the Bhamati school. There used to be one more school also, Vartika, but these two are the main ones, Vivarna and Bhamati. There are differences between these two schools in the sense, Vivarna will insist on Shravan, hearing. It is important to hear Vedanta again and again. Why, you know? The truth is so immediate that just hearing can give you a glimpse of it. Verbal testimony works like magic when the truth is immediate. When the object under investigation is immediately there. And for the real Jnani, the self is ever-present reality, isn't it? We are not going to construct or bring a self idea into our mind through all this. The mind is shining in the self. The mind functions in the light of awareness, which is the light of the self, light of Brahman. Because what we are investigating is already there, it is direct and immediate, so verbal testimony will work like magic for a really ripe mind. So this is actually the story of the 10th man, isn't it? In the Upanishads, you must have heard of it. It's a very interesting story. See, the story is so simple, but it is a huge pointer towards something very important. I'll briefly tell you the story here. 10 people are crossing a river, which is quite shallow. So they manage to cross the river and then they are counting how many of us are there. They count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and he fails to count himself, the one who was counting. So he starts saying, oh, we are only 9, but initially we were 10. So where did this one person go? And then the second one says, wait, let me count. He also counts 9. He forgets to count himself. Oh, only 9. But we were 10 when we started crossing the river, which means one person has drowned. So 10 fools, all of them make this mistake. They are not counting themselves and then they are howling and weeping. Oh, we are now only 9. Then a wayfarer comes there, another traveler. And he says, why are you lamenting? And they say, you know, we were 10, now we are only 9, one drowned in the river. And he says, doesn't seem to me to be so. Let me count. And he counts 10 because they were 10. Now as soon as he counts 10, Dashamo, see, he says to the last one, you are the 10th one, see. You are not just 9, you are 10. He turns his finger, it was counting like this, he turns that finger towards himself. The last person's finger, he turns towards his own self. And he says, see, Tattvamasi, Dashamasi, you are verily the 10th one. So don't lament, don't weep. Now you see, this pointing to the already existing truth works when the object under investigation is right in front of you. It's immediate. Are you getting the point? If really that 10% was not there, you could not use a verbal testimony. Verbal testimony will only work because it's a direct pointer. Shravan can be a direct pointer towards the truth of the Atman. So when the knowledge will be immediate if the object under investigation is direct, right in front of you, and the senses and mind are clear enough to perceive the directness of that object. That's the main thing. then Shravan alone will suffice. So this is what the Vivarna school is telling us. Just listen carefully, you will get it. But if you don't have the sanskars for it, you will get it in the form of a insight, and again the cloud of ignorance will come over that insight also after some time. Again you have to work towards, but one glimpse you may get. But if you wanted to, if insight should lead to absorption, complete realization and reveling in the truth of pure being, then you must have the sanskars of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. And all practices are meant to generate that. Otherwise it is not possible. See, our mind, you know very well how the mind is. It's like a monkey mind, isn't it? Always jumping from one thing to the other. How can this level of absorption come? Those who develop this insight, they may have functioned in the world, but their consciousness was completely immersed in Brahman. See, out of that only such works have come out. It's so clear when you read the Panchadashi. So this is a possibility only if those sanskars are strong enough to hold that knowledge, to hold that insight. It leads to absorption. So this is what the school is telling us. If you are ripe enough, Shravan alone will suffice. Otherwise, there are techniques. Make yourself strong in this knowledge. So the Bhamati school will actually prescribe Nididhyasana as the main means to realization, not just Shravan. So like this there are differences. I told you, between the two schools. Bhamati lays great stress on meditation. And even here in the Panchadashi, later he will be telling, Vidyaranya Swami will be telling us that if inquiry does not suffice, resort to the yoga of meditation. Make that a habit, your inquiry will remain firm. So for most of us, you cannot do without meditation. Check this out and see. We are not doing some kind of an intellectual activity. When you penetrate into Vedanta, you are actually generating insight just by questioning, just by inquiry. So we must have the capacity to hold that insight. Otherwise, what will happen? You will lose that knowledge. So that is why these schools, you see, all of us will fall under something or the other. But you must be well acquainted with your mind. That is the most important thing. Whether you know the scripture or not, you must know your mind. How does it behave? What are its tendencies? Will it be able to attain this level of knowledge? Or does it actually want it? Or it's enough just to know a little about it? No. For a real adhikari, he is yearning for this truth because it is to do with his real identity. That sense has come, that whoosh has come. And that is why then, Vedanta appears to be the ultimate thing. Advaita Vedanta is very, very simple. Our mind should become simple to grasp it, that's all. All sadhana pertains to mind, please remember. Truth is ever shining. Mind is complicated, not able to see it. Reality is ever present as it is. I am not able to see it as it is. I am seeing an interpretation of my mind which is heavily conditioned. So this is these books now, these Prakarana Granthas directly will talk of truth. He is not going to go into dialectics, or he is not going to go into any other form of convincing you. See, that's why I just love these books, Advait, Makarand, which we discussed in the last retreat, and now this Panchadashi, directly telling what is the truth. And very many ideas are coming into this work. It's a big work actually. And very many ideas are coming into this. So you will see the profundity of this work as we go into it. I will begin with the first verse. I am not going to give you an introduction to Vedanta and all that because many times we have done that, and I think you know all that we are trying to discuss here. Vedanta is actually the philosophy, the knowledge portion of the Vedas. The Upanishadic philosophy is the knowledge portion of the Vedas, and it is talking about the ultimate truth of our own existence. It is called Brahman in the Vedas. You can say a kind of vast cosmic consciousness which we are, not that it is out there. So the popular concept of creator God is not there. This is the consciousness of the universe in which everything shines. That is the idea of God in the Vedas. And all these texts, that is why all these scriptures are going to tell us how to get self-knowledge. So don't expect some other kind of ideas here. They are all going to point out to us how to know yourself in the true sense of the term, knowing the unchanging substratum of my being. Who am I? If we have already assumed I am such and such, this is my identity, this is my qualification, this is my post or position, we are in trouble with this kind of a philosophy. You must be really, empty for this inquiry to take place. Spirituality, that is why, is about renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean running away from somewhere to somewhere else. It means emptying yourself of ego. Emptying ourselves of false notions, uninvestigated notions about ourselves. Emptying ourselves of pride and arrogance and negativity and all that. The empty mind scintillates with awareness. Then only you can conduct an inquiry like this. So this is the most important pre-qualification of Vedanta. Vivek, Vairagya, Shatsampati and Mumukshutva. Once we are equipped with this, you will see these verses are making a lot of sense. You will see this, just this. I am going to page 17. We are only picking selected verses from Panchadashi. So I have selected a number of verses which are really thrilling. You go straight into that. Go to page 17. I am using this book, Panchadashi of Sri Vidyaranya Swami by Swami Swahananda. And here, verse number 33, go there on page 17. Annam prano mano buddhir anandas cheti panchate koshastair avrita swatma vismritya samsritim vrajet. The 5 sheaths of the self are those of the food, the vital air, the mind, the intellect and bliss. Enveloped in them, it forgets, the self forgets its real nature and becomes subject to transmigration. This is the famous Panchakosha model of the Upanishads. We are, as it were, enshrouded by 5 sheaths. It's called Annamaya Kosh, the body, Pranamaya Kosh, the pranic sheath, the vital airs, and then the Manomaya Kosh, the mind, the Vijnanamaya Kosh, the intellect, and the Anandamaya Kosh, or the bliss sheath or the causal sheath. These 5 sheaths cover the light of awareness, and we are strongly identified with these sheaths. You tell me, have you ever met a person who says, I am not my mind? You will say, if somebody tells you that, you will say, you are out of your mind. Who will say, I am not my mind, I am not my intellect? So this is a realization that our real self is beyond these. The light of awareness is streaming through these 5 sheaths, enlivening them, and I appear to be that. I appear to be a body, a mind, an intellect, a complex of these. So all of this is a kind of appearance. Appearance means what? Temporarily it is there. It appears to my senses. Not that it is there, it appears to me. Temporarily, my senses and mind see this. Now, once you have understood this Panchakoshas, you will understand they are going to talk about 3 bodies which we are wearing. The Sthula Sharir, Sukshma Sharir and Karan Sharir. Sthula Sharir is nothing but the Annamaya Kosh. Please note it down because the confusion arises here only. When next you will be using those words and you will wonder what is he talking about. Annamaya Kosh is Sthula Sharir, the gross body. Pranamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh and Vijnanamaya Kosh together form the subtle body, Sukshma Sharir. And Anandamay Kosh is the causal body, Karan Sharir. Beyond this is the Atman. And this entire package is you. Actually, you are the self manifesting through these 5 sheets. And identified with them. So now Vidyaranya Swami is now going to give us a technique which is very interesting, just a logical technique by which you can separate the real self from these 5 sheets. See, this is the beauty of Panchadashi. It's full of techniques like this. Just by inquiry and applying a logic, it is actually Anvaya Vyatireki Yukti, which means you are trying to separate, you're trying to see what is continuous in the discontinuous. You're trying to see the invariable in the variables. You see how he will do it. So in these 5 sheets, do you remember this comes elsewhere also? This particular way of discerning the self. It also comes in the Mandukya Upanishad. We do it with the 3 states. There it's called Avasthatraya Vichara. Here it is Panchakosha Vichara. But you see how he is going to do it now. Once you know you are wearing these 5 sheets, now you must understand this primarily. I will go into his way of doing it only. You will see how beautiful the verse is. Next, go to, once we have a grasp over this, go to 37 verse. Anvyaya Vyatirekaabhyam Panchakosha Vivekatah Swatmanam Tad Udhritya Param Brahma Prapadyate. By differentiating the self from the 5 sheets through the method of distinguishing between the variable and the invariable, one can draw out one's own self from the 5 sheets and attain the Supreme Brahman. What I told you? And how he is going to do this? Go to the next verse. Abhane sthula dehasya swapne yadbhanam atmanaha so anvayo vyatirekastad abhane anyan avabhasanam, which means the physical body present in one's consciousness is absent in the dreaming state. But the witnessing element, pure consciousness, persists in both waking and dreaming states. This is the invariable presence of the self. Though the self is perceived, the physical body is not. So the latter is a variable factor. Okay, now you see how he is discerning. The physical body present in one's consciousness is absent in the dreaming state, isn't it? We all pass through these 3 states. But this same physical body will not be there in your dream. Have you noticed this? In fact, you may be wearing a different body. Yes? You may be wearing quite a different body, and that's okay for you. The same witnessing awareness is there. Who's seeing the dream? That witnessing consciousness is there. Body is different. So you see, something is more stable than your body, which is your witness awareness. See how he is finding out, you see? Witnessing element persists in both waking and dream states. This is the invariable presence. This is what is called anvaya of the self. Though the self is perceived, the physical body is not in these states. You are there and you are happily in another body, and that's fine. Yes? See, many people know they dream of things like they are flying in the air somewhere, floating in the air, and just floating in the sky somewhere, and the body is different. Not the same old you, quite different from what you appear. And you see, now they are experiencing that flotation. They are experiencing, so witness awareness is very much there. The same awareness by which in the waking state you understand the dream, the same awareness is there. But you are in a different body. So what is the anvaya there? That which does not change, it is your witness awareness. That which perceives the dream, that which perceives the experiences of the waking state. So you see, now you have found one invariable between two variable states. Now, but you experience a third state also, where one more terrific insight he will throw. But first understand this dream state well. Okay, it should not be somebody's philosophy. You must understand and feel the truth of this, what he is saying. Every dream is like this. You are the witness of the dream state. That's why when you wake up, you are able to tell something about the dream. And your eye sense persisted and continued. So you never feel threatened in a dream. See, we are not frightened to go to sleep. Because I know I will persist. I am there. Right? I am very much there. Maybe the dream is spun by whom? The mind. And it can go anyway, your dream. But you are safe. You are there. In a different body. So you see, that is the reason why the witnessing awareness is something more stable and permanent than your identification with a body, either in waking or dream state. Now he will go into a further insight. You see this one. Lingabhane sushuptau syat atmano bhanam anvayah vyatireikastu tadbhane lingasya bhanam uchyate. Similarly, in the state of deep sleep, the subtle body is not perceived, but the self invariably witnesses that state. While the self persists in all states, the subtle body is not perceived in deep sleep, and so it is called a variable factor. Now you go into your state of deep sleep. Was the mind there? Did you experience any object? No. Mind was not there. Mind had shut down in deep sleep, sushupti. But who knows that the mind shut down, that there were no objects? Who knows that? How are you able to tell that? Which means you were there, the self was there, consciousness persisted, but there was absence of objects. See, whether it is deep sleep or coma or under anesthesia, you are always there. There was no object to reflect the light of the self. There was no mind, no reflector. So you never perceived anything. But you were always there, which means the self is the only invariable in all three states. And the states are variables. Yes. So our identity in these states are all changing. They have really no substance in them. But we invest so much into that identity and lose on self-knowledge. That's why I told you, the real renunciation is when the mind is able to see truth as it is. That is renunciation. It is not about wearing a gerua and running away somewhere. It is about our ability to discern. Analyze your own experience. See, this is the glory of Advaita Vedanta. It's analyzing your own experience, not giving you somebody's philosophy, somebody's thought form. It's analyzing your own experience. Even in the state of deep sleep, the self is there to tell you the mind had shut down. There were no objects. I just experienced restfulness, peacefulness, which means you were there. Now he is telling you that is why then the most stable, invariable in your experience is the self, consciousness itself. And all of these, Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, are states passing over you. And they are states of mind, not states of self. And not that you are the waker, the dreamer and the deep sleeper. The Atman, the self, is appearing as the waker in the waking state, the dreamer in the dream state, and the deep sleeper in the deep sleep state. So only Atman is. You can confuse yourself endlessly. That's the work of the mind, According to its conditioning, it will give you thoughts. So you can keep confusing yourself, your sense of identity with anything. You can identify with anything. In the dream, maybe you were some kind of angel and you assumed your identity to be that of an angel. You can assume any identity, but the reality is only that consciousness illumines every experience from within. Even the absence of experience is illumined by consciousness, as in deep sleep. So the anvay here The invariable, unchanging element here is the self. That is why it is called the fourth. It is not these three. Right? It's called Turiya in the Mandukya Upanishad. It's actually not even fourth. It is the most fundamental aspect of your being, which appears as the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper. See, any word you use is insufficient. Suppose I say the self is the undercurrent of waking, dream and deep sleep states. Then you will imagine like there's something, a primary substratum upon which this is happening. Nothing you imagine is correct. Because it's a thought, it's a vritti. You cannot accommodate Brahman into vrittis. Vrittis are being illumined by Brahman. Right? So don't try to accommodate consciousness into mind. Rather, learn to transcend mind through piercing inquiry and meditation and know that you are always the self, illumining all processes of the mind and even illumining the absence of processes in the mind. See, this is why this is transcendental knowledge. It is not to be accommodated within vrittis. It cannot be. There is no word for it. There is no concept about it. Even if I tell you just like that, think of consciousness. Can you think of consciousness? Because you are thinking in consciousness. You cannot think of consciousness. What you can do is purify the mind and drop it, and only consciousness will remain. This is the way for this higher knowledge. Right? So don't think study of a philosophy or study of a thing will... The essential thing is I apply to my own system and I discover myself to be the self there. Then every study becomes relevant, Then these Upanishads and all will become very striking what they are saying. But if I don't find that Anvyaya factor within myself, I will not relate with this. No philosophy on the planet has studied all the three states. Isn't it? Every science, every philosophy only studies you in the waking state. This is the only philosophy which is studying it like this. And they are finding the common factor which is unchanging in all the three states. You see, this is the beauty of these verses of Vidyaranya. Then, go to 40. Tad viveka vivitta syu kosha prana manodhiyaha tehi tatra gunavastha abheda matrat prithak krita. By discrimination of the subtle body and recognition of its variable transient nature, the sheaths of the mind, intellect and vital airs are understood to be different from the self, for the sheaths are conditions of the three gunas and differ from each other qualitatively and quantitatively. Isn't this true? The three sheaths, even the Sukshma Sharir, the mind sheath, intellect sheath, all of them are Prakriti, affected by the three gunas. If the mind is clear enough, you can go into higher intelligence. If the intelligence is clear enough, you can go into self-knowledge. But they are all tinged by Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. If they are dense, you will feel I am only the body. So you see, only living in body consciousness is very poor intelligence. This is the study of intelligence also. You must remember this. Consciousness, intelligence and happiness are three words for the same thing. The highest consciousness will yield the highest intelligence, and that is bliss. And the lower the consciousness, the more there will be confusion, lesser the intelligence. And when I am not clear about myself, how will I be clear about anything else? And lesser will be the bliss, so then you need objects to entertain you. Right? It's called acquired taste. You are acquiring a kind of taste or relish for objects because you are so sorrowful within. See, where there is no awareness, there is no happiness. Check this out and see. This is not you did not believe in any of this. Check it out in your own life and see. if there is awareness, pure awareness, you are always buoyant and blissful. Even the mind will behave, it will remain happy. The lack of awareness is the source of all sorrow. This great truth, if we understand, see Panchadashi later on, he's going to dwell on this, the bliss aspect of Brahman. If there's one thing we understand in life, you will know what to prioritize in life. Learn to live intelligently. That's the message of all the Upanishads. An intelligent life is a conscious life, a life in consciousness. Unintelligent life is life in identification with body and mind, and a muddled mind. So this primary thing we have to make clear to ourselves. So that is why you see, by discrimination of the subtle body and the sheaths of the mind, intellect and vital layers, they are found to be different from the self, and these sheaths are conditioned by the gunas. So different levels of perception, understanding, intelligence, joys, they will keep giving you until they are made clear, clean, and then they will give you the insight. This is how the process works. But remember this, these gunas belong to Prakriti. All this that is not conscious is Prakriti. Yes, even your mind, ego, everything, even this intellect, which is still functioning as in the dual mode, it's all changing. It is all Prakriti. See, there's a little bit of Sankhya here. There is the consciousness principle and all that is not conscious, but appears to be conscious due to its proximity to the self. That which is consciousness is Purusha, that which is not conscious is Prakriti. And Prakriti, what is its purpose? To give this experience to Purusha. The experience of what you are calling life. And so she is Trigunamayi, she has all these three gunas. Different levels of experience she will give the Purusha. But if you want the knowledge of Purusha itself, you must turn her within. You must use your vitality, your energy to get self-knowledge and not remain preoccupied with the ways of the mind and the senses. That is why Vedanta is a development over Sankhya, isn't it? It is talking purely of pure being, consciousness itself. Not about the reflections of conscious awareness in the mind and all that. Right? Now you go to 41. Everything is interesting, but I am just going to a few. Sushuptya abhane bhanantu samadhavatmano anvayah Vyatireka sva atmabhane sushuptya avabhasanam avidya, manifested as the causal body or bliss sheath, is negated in the state of deep meditation, in which neither subject nor object is experienced, but the self persists in that state. So it is the invariable factor, but the causal body is a variable factor, for though the self persists, it does not. Now he is showing how even the Anandamay Kosh, that is also variable. Only the self illumines even the Anandamay Kosh. Only the self persists, it appears as all these. That's the final conclusion. Just by using this Anvaya Vyatireki Yukti, he is separating out the variables from the invariable. Right? See, if you don't use a logical process like this, we'll happily identify with, I am the causal body, I am the intelligence. It's happening in some one particular portion of the Vedas. Do you remember? Bhruguvalli, Taittiriya Upanishad. There, similar thing is there. And the sage Bhrugu, a young sage, is constantly identifying himself first with the body, then the mind, then the intellect, then the causal body. And his father is telling him, Uddalak is telling him, no, you are none of these. Go and meditate further. See, meditate further. And you will know the truth. Finally, he comes to the knowledge of the self. So here just through yukti, he's discerning, he's telling you. See, even if you identify with your intellect, doesn't your intelligence also change? Isn't it given to change? And by what light is it illumined? This fundamental question we should ask, isn't it? What illumines our intellect to give us knowledge? What illumines our mind? So this is the inquiry here, primarily. And that which is changeless, because you are that, you can detect change in the mind, in the intellect, right? If you were the changing thing, could you detect anything? Tell me. If you were the mind, you would not know the ways of the mind. Because you are the self, you know the ways of your mind. So all this proves that you are the changeless self. Because everything else is an object to that. The mind is an object to you. That's how you have all the mental sciences, life sciences, right? Psychological sciences. Mind is an object, intellect is an object, and they are all variables. They all keep changing. But you are the one who detects that change, so you are the changeless one. Look at the logic. So there is only one unchanging truth. Nityo anityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashvatim na itaresham. Kathopanishad says, there is only one real unchanging substance in the midst of all change. Nityo anityanam chetanas chetananam. One consciousness principle in all that appears to be conscious. Eko bahunam. In the midst of all multiplicity, there is only one consciousness. Yo vidadhati kaman, who knows this in first person experience by giving up desires. And yo vidadhati kaman tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira. Such a man of steady knowledge. To him this knowledge becomes real and he attains to great peace and inner felicity, and nobody else. Peace belongs to nobody else. One who sees the unchanging one gets it. So you see, the 42nd verse here is going to make that conclusion. Yatha munjarishi kai atma yuktya samudhrutaha sharira tritaya dhirai param brahmaiva jayate. It's there even in the Kathopanishad. Yatha munjadi veshikam dhairyena, which means as the slender internal pith of munja grass can be detached from its coarse external covering, so the self can be distinguished through reasoning from the three bodies or the five sheaths. Then the self is recognized as the supreme consciousness. You can actually separate it from the five sheaths as you separate the inner pith of the munja grass. Now, in the Mandukya Upanishad, this separation, there's a name for it. That's why I have given it another name. The fourth state is called Turiya, the state of self-knowledge. Because it's not the three states of Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Just to distinguish, they have given it a name, Turiya. So this is what they are talking about. The self is recognized as the supreme consciousness apart from the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper. Because these are objects to your awareness. Yes, is it making sense? See, little bit of you must shake your sense of identification. I told you that is the renunciation in the Vedantic process. Our strong sense of identification with things, with body, mind, objects around us, with family, little bit you should shake it. Then this kind of inquiry becomes possible. The real me is being tracked here, and that is found to be the supreme consciousness, Brahman. We all have a common identity in that. See, all of us say I, we all point to the heart. And now 8.5 billion people on this planet, when they say I, they mean the same thing. The import of I sense is Brahman. You may wear any identity, any form, any name, anything. but you mean the same thing when you say I. Isn't this remarkable? That is why there is a sense of, kinship or empathy, which a normal human mind will feel. Because, you always feel, oh, that person is, I can understand how that person feels. I can understand how that person knows. So you know it only because there's one consciousness illumining all our minds and bodies. And there are no separate consciousnesses. There is no plurality in consciousness. So this is what they are talking about, oneself, illumining the Panchakoshas from within. And that is why don't just identify with body and mind, but go towards self-knowledge. This is considered the goal of human life. That's why these are all moksha shastras. Yes? Dharma, artha, kama. Utterly confused enterprise. Moksha, the direct knowledge of, it's direct knowledge, immediate knowledge. Most obvious thing you can do. That's why that is called the goal of human life. And dharma, artha, kama is not the goal of human life. It is a means. You go slowly, drudgingly, and finally you go towards moksha. This is the common goal for everyone. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, God realization is the only goal of human life. We must make this very clear to our minds. Then we will know how to prioritize things in our life. See, just through inquiry, investigation, and clear thinking, he is taking us into self-knowledge. Isn't it remarkable? Tell me, where do you have literature like this in the world? At the most psychological sciences, they have all come to what is called consciousness studies, is again the contents of your consciousness, which are thoughts, emotions, not pure consciousness itself. This is the only piece of literature in the world which is talking about pure consciousness as a immediate reality. Right now, right here it is present. And it is my very own nature. In fact, they will tell you perception, mentation, cognition, memory, all these are objective processes. They are objective to yourself. So they are not immediate. They are indirect. And you are calling that direct knowledge. Look at the difference in understanding. Science considers perception to be direct knowledge, isn't it? What I perceive is what is out there. Vedanta is saying, if you perceive it, it's not there. It's not real knowledge. It's highly mediated knowledge. But consciousness, you ever are that. It's so immediate. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to put it perfectly, It is so immediate and close to you, there is no way for a path to it. There is no path to it. That's why it's called the pathless path. For the simple reason, it's you. It's not even yours. It's you. Your mind is yours, your body is yours, but yourself is you. So what path are you going to find to it? Insight, generate the insight required. This is supreme intelligence. If our intelligence develops to that level, we will become very sensitive to this. It's the most obvious truth of existence. Isn't it? The rest is all interpretation of mind and reconstruction of the brain. Whether you like it or not, that this is the fact. The more Vedanta we do, the more you will understand this. Your simple perception is a reconstruction by the brain. And it is not out there, that is not the reality there. That's why different species will see it differently. Yes? You think the owl is seeing what we are seeing? Even the cat is not seeing what you are seeing. But you think it is out there. The green tree, the green mountains. Anyway, we won't go into perception theory just now, but what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of our knowledge, most of our knowledge is highly mediated knowledge. Only self-knowledge is immediate, that's why it's called. Not mediated, unmediated. Already present self. illumining senses and mind from within. So this is the beauty of Panchadashi, going straight into truth. And through simple techniques, you see what technique he adopted here? Anvyavyatireka, logical technique he has adopted. And clearly showing you how to discern that you are not mind, you are not intelligence, you are the self. Anything which you can objectify, obviously it's not you, isn't it? Is it right? Is this right? If it is an object of my perception, obviously that is not me. Right till the Anandmay Kosh, everything is an object of your perception. Yes, you can know it as an object. So obviously then you are apart from it, you are something deeper than that. Only awareness can never be objectified. Check this out and see. Yes, so you cannot see it. Pratyaksha Praman will fail. You cannot see it, you cannot know it through a thought form. You cannot use a vritti to get at it. Because you are it. What to do? You are already the 10th man, no? So I cannot create another 10th man and show you, look man, this is the 10th man. You are that already. So this is how Vedanta works. It is recognition of already existing truth. Recognition means recognition. You have to change the ways of the mind. Turn the mind inward, it will change its ways. And it will learn to reflect truth. So then a process of inquiry initiated there will take you into truth. So the direct method it is. And the most obvious truth this is. And the rest is all, mind-made. Whether we understand this or not, all of our sciences and philosophies are mind-made. Yes, made up by the mind. And we think by refining that mind, I will get more and more knowledge. Mind has ways of, if you must, for something to work in your life, you must understand the mechanism, how it works. If you want higher knowledge, you must understand how mind works. Mind works only through thoughts. Thoughts are, it's a thought form is nothing but, it's a concoction of your mind in which the subject is perceiving an object through a praman. There's a process, it's called prameya and praman and pramata, praman and prameya. So this process is called knowing. But you please try to understand this, that whatever you are perceiving or thinking of, it is an object to you. Always. And that is why it will not yield knowledge of the self. Because the self is always the supreme subject. No objective process will yield that knowledge. So no vritti can be formed about consciousness. When no vritti can be formed, obviously you can't use mind to go there. You have to so refine mind that you transcend it. There is the beautiful story of Hastamalakacharya. Have you heard about self-knowledge? So this was a child whom Shankara encountered, Adi Shankara, 8th century. He encountered when he was traveling and he was refuting a lot of Buddhist philosophers and a huge group was traveling with him. That time he came across in a village, this young child. And the father is complaining away about the child. He's saying, I have only one son, but he turns out to be an idiot. He is deaf and dumb. Anything I say, he doesn't understand, he doesn't speak. And what shall I do with this child? Then Shankara took one look at the boy and said, he is not an idiot. You are an idiot. You are not understanding who he is. And his face is luminous with knowledge. And that child's eyes are speaking to me. Then he asks him, who are you, my son? And then that entire Hastamalaka Stotram, you can read it. The child then starts speaking and says, I am the unchanging, untainted self, manifesting through this body and mind, but nobody is able to understand my state, so I keep quiet. And very beautiful verses are there on self-knowledge. He's straight away saying, I am Brahman, and it is as clear to me as an amalaki in my hand. Amalaki is the Indian gooseberry. If it's on your hand, how you will know that the fruit is in your hand? That's clear as self-knowledge to me. So I keep quiet. How can I talk with these people who will not understand? So you see, most direct, immediate grasp on the truth of pure being. Now don't think one becomes deaf and dumb. One becomes really, really powerful. But he may prefer to be quiet because obviously, okay, where there's no Brahma Vidya, there really you have to be quiet. Because it won't make sense otherwise. But where there is that person, the entire equipment will become super powerful because now it is completely enlivened from the source. So anything is achievable through self-knowledge. The Upanishads themselves say this, right? Annavan annado bhavati, mahan bhavati, prajaya pashubi, brahmavarchasena, mahan kirtya. Everything comes to that person automatically because of his ekatma bodh. Automatically everything comes to that person. Only you cultivate self-knowledge. This is the message. Instead of running after things, cultivate self-knowledge, everything will automatically come to you. So this is the beauty of this knowledge. We will continue further. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.